all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. We just want to remind you that Veterans Radio podcasts are available on all your favorite streaming platforms, including RSS.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Rees Across America Radio. So wherever you are, you can find us, whether it's on your mobile phone or your computer or your laptop, your tablet. But listen in to Veterans Radio Podcasts. We post something new every week, and you're going to find it informative.
We want to welcome to Veterans Radio today a Navy veteran that you're going to get a kick out of, and you're going to learn how to be a better cook out of. Neal Williams, a.k.a. the Flat Top King, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, those of you who are listening in on Veterans Radio here, you might get the idea that, geez, he sounds like he's maybe from the South. So Neal, where'd you grow up and where's home?
Knoxville, Tennessee, right on the base of the Smoky Mountains.
You know, how did a nice kid from there end up in the Navy?
Truth be told, we went into the buddy program. So two of my best friends, we all played sports together growing up, and one of them got into the I don't remember exactly the term, the CV program, which was like a local for the reserves, and he got into it really big. And then he knew for a fact that he wanted to join. And then my best friend, my other one, was like, hey, I'm all aboard. And so we had a Navy recruiter come to the school. And when I was leaving lunch with my best friend, we stopped in because he had already made contact with him. And he's out there doing a spill and all that stuff. And at that time, I already knew that cooking was a part of my DNA. It was just a part of my passion, a part of my love. And I'll never forget, he'd reach over and he goes, dude, what would you ever do? Throw a frozen hot dog in case we got invaded? You know, or something like that. Like, we would fight them off with a spatula. Needless to say, the recruiter did not have a hard job. All three of us wanted to go. We all went. And as they say, the rest is history.
So you went in right after high school, I take it?
Yes, sir.
And what year would that have been?
01.
And you mentioned it, and I think this is really important because it fits into your Navy career and now the influencer that we're going to talk to, cooking. Cooking's in your DNA. Why is cooking in your DNA?
You know, I think everybody just is born with a passion, whether they do it for a job or do it for a hobby. You know, a lot of people enjoy outdoors, whether it be hunting, fishing. A lot of people enjoy XYZ. So I would say that I don't know. I just feel like I'm truly blessed to be able to live in the cooking aspect without having to be in the restaurant aspect. You know, the restaurant business is extremely hard. Nights, mornings, you know, you name it. But as you mentioned, the social media aspect has really changed the way a lot of people look at jobs. And I just look at it like I was just in it at the right time. So cooking has always been my passion. A lot of things led up to this, and here we are today. But yeah, I remember one quick story. Literally, I would come home from school, and you had really a few options. You know, you didn't have all the digital media you have today. You just had cable. But I was ingrained and tuned to Two Fat Girls. That was a cooking show, or Two Fat Ladies. East Meets West. I mean, the very original.
The two fat girls is high school. We can't talk about that.
No,
Stay with the two.
They were from England, and I just absolutely just gravitated towards it. And cooking, I remember I learned how to caramelize onions from Julia Child, and not personally, obviously on TV.
Right.
So I go to my stove, and I was about 10 years old. Not really old enough to control the stove, but old enough to understand like it was on and all that stuff. So I got onions cut up. I put it in the pan, and I was frustrated that my onions did not get quote unquote caramelized. To me, caramelized meant like sugary because they're talking about sugars and all that stuff. So here I am dumping about a pound of brown sugar.
Oh geez.
And my grandmother raised me, and she comes in and just absolutely just wants to bark at me. And it is burnt, smoke alarms going off. And I can always say that was my first true culinary experience of like, I just wanted to caramelize onions. I saw it on TV. I saw the impact. It sounded good, and it completely butchered it.
Well, that's part of cooking is experimenting, and sometimes you succeed, and sometimes you say, I can do that better or different next time. So as you went into the Navy, did you go in under a contract that said, okay, you're going to be a cook, or
yes,
how did you work that in because that was your passion?
Oh, very easily. To be a cook, you barely all you have to do is pass the ASVAB. It wasn't like I was a scholar to begin with. So there wasn't a lot of pressure on that. I knew I wanted to be a cook. Went in as a cook. Boot camp, we're all three together. And then one of my best friends went to the air department. So I think he went to a training before he ended up at Virginia Beach. And then my other best friend was undecided. So he was a bosun's mate, but there's a certain term for it. Anyways, he didn't go to A school. He went straight to the fleet. So he was in front of me. So after boot camp, I knew that I had to go to culinary school, and that put me in San Antonio, Texas. I was able to, whoever got top of their class was able to pick their destination. So whatever destination was open, and lo and behold, I got to pick the USS Nassau. It is a decommissioned ship now, but it was based in Norfolk, Virginia, and my other friend was already on there as a bosun's mate. And so I picked that so we could reunite again, and pretty easy transition, as they say.
So cooking volume in the Navy is a lot different than any of us have ever experienced at home, although some of us, like myself, have eaten that food that you guys cooked in volume. So tell us a little bit about culinary school. That's not the same as the Culinary Institute in New York or even a community college culinary arts program. But what kind of training did you get?
Yeah, the bare minimum for a AFRS, all these acronyms I don't remember, Armed Force Recipe System, is based out of 100 portions. So on the USS Nassau, we would feed anywhere between 1,200 to 1,700 people daily. While we were at sea and we're fully loaded with Marines, probably up to 3,000. So you might learn how to make an omelet on a griddle in culinary school. We actually shared the cooking base with the Air Force because that was our home base for recruiting and all that stuff. So a lot of our chow was the same thing. You learn the same recipes, but bulk, you don't get a chance to learn bulk until you get a chance to learn it. You know, our copper pits were our best friends, where you can the tubs are so big you take a bath in them. Griddles are stretched as far as you could see, and they call them grills. Ovens, I specifically remember that our ship had 32 ovens, 16 across, 16 double stacked. And there would be times where every single oven was completely full. So
well, and one of the other things you have to learn is how to feed that volume of people, that volume of food. It may not be simultaneously, but it's all got to get out in a certain time parameter.
A lot of people think it's about cooking. I always go back and say I also had, there's called a job in the cooking world called Jack of the Dust, JOD. So we had a whole team designated every single day just to break out the provisions needed to be able to cook the food. That was a whole job in itself because that just takes all day, especially when you're underway and loaded with Marines. One quick story: when we deployed, we packed our ship so thick and so full that the very first thing that you opened up at the freezer was the first thing that we served in the morning. It didn't matter if it was not lobster tails, but it did not matter. We had chicken nuggets, we had French fries, we had eggs ready, and whatever we opened the door with for the first about week was the only thing that we served.
Yeah, it's a logistics.
So yeah,
it's just about logistics at that point, and how do you crack that many eggs, or how do you get that much stuff out of the freezer?
Just throwing out like 400 to 800 pounds of chicken. Like you got to break it out of the freezer, you got to thaw it out properly, you got to worry about sanitation, you got to sheet tray it, you got to season it, you got to bake it, you got to hold it. Yeah, so it's not just the cooking. There's a lot of things that go in before that person comes through the chow line and just gets that first bite.
And how long were you on ship? How long did you serve?
I served the 4-year commitment, all 4 years on the Nassau. Really quick story. I really had some seniors that were very impressionable on me. I've always looked up to them. Still to this day, I've lost contact with them, but I'll never forget the way they treated me. One was the Filipino, which was a master chief, senior chief. He made master chief. Another one was a warrant officer who was previously on presidential duty. They saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, but that's what happens when you have senior mentorship. They wanted to pull me from the general mess. At early stage, I got a chance to be in the chief's mess. From there, I graduated and went to the wardroom. And then one time I was controlling not on the wardroom. I was the captain's cook and controlling the chief's mess at the same time.
And for those who aren't in the Navy, what he's doing is they're moving them up through the pay grades, if you will, up through the ranks, so that the better cooks, the captain, the admiral's getting the best cook. The guy who's just enlisted for a month is getting that 3,000 scrambled eggs. So that's a real testament to what they saw in their mentorship in you to move you to the chief's mess, and then the wardroom, and then the captain's mess. All of that are internal attaboys, weren't they?
Yeah, and the biggest crown of my jewel is I got a chance to interview for the White House. Master Chief Powell came down. We interviewed in Norfolk. And at the time, I do not know. You got to remember, it's been 20 years. At the time, I was the youngest person to ever be selected to cook at the White House. Matter of fact, I was so young, I didn't have enough rank. And they basically told me, since I was a single sailor with no dependents, that they physically could not pay me enough to live in D.C. They wanted me, but I could not go up there.
Yeah, absolutely. You would have been dead broke trying to make that rent check and food check. Well, you get out, you do your time. You had an interesting set of experiences. You learned a lot, it sounds like. What does Neal Williams say to himself, well, what do I do now?
Well, one of the reasons why I got out is exactly what you just said. So after the White House, my orders got submitted. Well, Camp David called. Camp David called and said, hey, you still have to interview, but I wanted to see why your name is kind of like red flag with the green check marks to say. So I went up there to Camp David, interviewed, and they said, we can get you up here right away because you don't have to worry about the cost of living where Camp David is located versus you can in D.C. Waited on the orders. All this was after 9/11. So I was in culinary school during 9/11. So you can imagine the pressure of the military at the time was completely different, pretty close to what it is now. Like there's a difference between like when you're actively engaging versus everything going smooth. But after 9/11, it changed, as you know. And so anyway, so I was waiting on my orders to be cut. And the next thing you know, the Pentagon called and said, hey, we see your order submitted. Now you've made rank. If you come up here, at the time it was Donald Rumsfeld. And they said, we need one more person to fill the position. Went up there and did an Iron Chef competition with the 5 other applicants. I was able to win that. I was able to win the job. Waited on the orders, but then I just timed out. So what does Neal Williams do? I applied to the Culinary Institute of America because I knew that I wanted to do the cooking. And
that was the name I couldn't remember. I couldn't remember CIA. It's Culinary Institute of America in New York. There you go. Yep. Thank you.
And I was right there. I was at a pivotal moment. And looking back, people will say, what's the biggest crossroad? And that is it. I felt like at 22 years old, when I was getting out of the Navy, I felt like I'd already done my 4 years and I was already behind the 8 ball. So I decided not, even though I got accepted, I decided not to go to college. And we started a little franchise in Knoxville. And that kind of how it kind of went. But I look back, I'm like, man, at 22 years old, I already thought that I was behind the eight ball to go to college at the most prestigious culinary institute in the world. So that's kind of like the defining moment right there.
Well, and that's again where now you can offer mentorship and guidance to younger guys and gals. Maybe you didn't have it that when you needed it, but life's a series of unplanned adventures, and so what becomes the next adventure?
My in-laws had a chance to retire early. I'm extremely close to my in-laws. On a whim, it's almost like putting a dart on a dartboard. They wanted to get out of Knoxville and pursue other interests, but they didn't want to be close enough to Knoxville to where Knoxville always pulled you back. Lo and behold, after like a 6,000-mile road trip, they picked out several ranches, and it could have been anything from a marina to a chicken farm to a horse farm to you name it. But they wanted our family, our core family, to stay together. Next thing you know, we ended up in the middle of the southeast Wyoming. My daughter, to put it in perspective, was born about an hour and a half away to the closest hospital, which was also the closest Walmart. So it was in the middle of nowhere. So we did that for 4 years. And at the time, I had a chance to drive 45 minutes south. You'll never believe this. And one of America's unsung heroes of like the best steakhouses in America. In a town of 63 people, it's called Miners and Stockmans. And it's historically, the claim of fame is it's Wyoming's oldest bar. And the original bar back was actually made, if I'm not mistaken, in England and shipped over here. It's got an original bullet hole in there. There's steps that go down that are now covered with like the actual floor that has like a speakeasy back in the when they had the alcohol prohibition and all that stuff. Just crazy, but just a fantastic steakhouse. So I got to cook there for a while, and then ultimately we made the decision to come back to Knoxville. And once again, I was forced in a pivotal moment. I knew for a fact I love food, but also knew for a fact that I love my SEC football on Saturdays.
There you go.
And my daughters were so young that they didn't have a chance to understand what Dad was doing at night. So when I would go to work at night, they would already go in bed. Well, I would come home and I would sleep, and then my youngest daughter would end up going to school while I was asleep. Next thing you know, I'd wake up, I'd go to work, she's still at school, and it's this vicious cycle. And so it wasn't long till I realized that when I came back to Knoxville that, I just didn't want to be in that restaurant style to where I missed the family and worked every single week.
It's a very hard life to be a chef or a cook or a server in a traditional steakhouse restaurant. So I fully understand your decision here.
I came home. My dad had a little business. I helped him out. Him and another friend were able to give me enough business to kind of get into it. Next thing you know, I'm delivering bread, just like you see with those people with the bread racks inside the grocery stores. And I did that for 6 solid years. During that process, that's a 7-day-a-week job. Like you are a sole proprietor, and you make what you want out of it.
You've got a route to run, and it's yours to run it. Yep.
Yeah. Up in the morning, sometimes it's 11 o'clock, sometimes 12 o'clock, sometimes majority of the time it was 2 o'clock in the morning. You're waking up. So we did that, and then that it starts calling again. The cooking. I always cook for family. COVID happens, as we know that's probably. Besides 9/11, it's just how it shapes America as today. And I was didn't even know what YouTube was about. And I was online looking at YouTube, and because there was nothing open, you couldn't do anything, So just online, and I realized there's this whole genre, this whole world, this whole internet space of how-to videos. And to be honest with you, I saw a video that had 1.4 million views, and it was seasoning cast iron. And I knew for a fact the way they did it was they never even got the oil up to a smoke point to be able to season the cast iron. I also knew that the oil they were using, they mounded, and I mean globbed on there to where there was so much residual coconut oil that they created like a white streak, a white mound over the cast iron. And if you truly get in a cast iron cooking, you know that, thinner layers are better, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, man, after 1.4 million views to tell somebody how to do something wrong, imagine if you can tell them to do something right.
Well, and this is where the story really gets interesting because Neal Williams, this Navy cook, decides, and it's probably incremental, but I want folks to go to theflattopking.com and check out his website. Go to YouTube, where you've got 250,000 followers, where you show them every recipe and way to cook on a griddle. You've just really ridden a wave here, but when you started, that couldn't have been what you were thinking you'd end up doing for a career, I don't think.
Matter of fact, it wasn't even called the Flat Top King. At first, when I started, it was called the Charcoal King because I've always enjoyed cooking with cast iron and open fire. But what I didn't know is exactly what you said. I never intended this to be a business. I never intended it to be the way of life. It was just something that you saw. I'm like, if they can do it, I can do it. But what I didn't know was everything that I didn't know. I didn't know how to film. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to keep your attention. I didn't know anything. And matter of fact, I didn't even know at the time that you could look that stuff up on social media.
Well, and you've got to go to these you got to go to his website. You got to go to his YouTube. He's got Instagram, because it's so professionally done, and that takes proper photography, proper videos, sound, lighting. What, do you got a cast of 100 here? How many people do this for you?
You're going to be amazed. I've been in it for almost 6 years, like 5.5 years, and we've shot everything through a single iPhone. We only have one boom mic that attaches to a little handheld thing that we just got about 6, maybe 8 months ago. So you figure I was in YouTube for basically 5 years before I realized that when I was editing my videos, even though I was recording in 4K, I did not know I was not uploading in 4K. So then I had to completely relearn how to edit on another program. Every single video I've ever edited has been through free software, whether it be through my iMac with iMovie, and now we've upgraded to DaVinci, but it's still the free one. But there are times, yeah, you're right. It's a learning curve. We actually probably 2 weeks ago just pivoted as well, because you learn as you grow. You know, you see things you want to implement. And I think that's fair in life and business. You have to keep moving forward.
And you've got a great partner in this. We talked before we started recording, and again, pre-COVID, we would never have done this interview on Zoom so that I can use it and edit it. But I get a kick out of your technical advisor. Tell us about
her. She's been my thick or thins. Actually, we're high school sweethearts. So I was a year above her in high school. When I got stationed in Norfolk, then she found a college closer to the Norfolk area. She attended that, so we're together there. Crazy story, backtracking a little bit. So the day that she reported for her freshman year, the same day, the next day I deployed for a 9-month deployment.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So the idea of her going to college close
didn't work out.
Didn't even happen. Of course, and all that stuff. But that's how life happens. But yeah, we've been together since high school. And she's been with me on this crazy ride, and we kind of just feed off of each other. She has her strengths or her weaknesses, and I feel like she does not cook at all. So when I say weaknesses, there's not many of them, but one of them is her cooking ability. Thank goodness I can step in for that one. But other than that, she's probably more brains behind the operation than what people would think, and it's because of her. I think that's where we're at today.
Well, as a influencer now in griddle cooking, give people a little insight into, it's just not a quick 3-minute or 12-minute or 15-minute filming of you cooking on the griddle. I mean, there's all kinds of prep time and post-editing time. Give folks some sense of how it all comes together.
Yeah, that's a tough one. So there's a lot of different variations. I do know this. What I try to do is try to teach, right? So instead of just cooking bell peppers and onions, I try to tell you that on a griddle, you're going to have different temperature zones, right? And if you put it over here, this is what's going to happen. So if you take a mound of chicken for your hibachi and you put it on too low a griddle and keep all your chicken together, you're just going to boil your chicken. You're not getting any flavor development because it doesn't have enough surface area to sear the meat. When you put a sauce down on the griddle, you completely zap away the temperature of the griddle. It's only so strong with the propane. And then you notice that as the sauce spreads out, it'll start bubbling it up. But inside of your area, it's not, because that temperature has dropped so low, it's not even hot enough to boil. So that's why it's important to have zone cooking and griddle cooking, because you can move that stuff over and it'll start reducing immediately, while the original side where you put the sauce will recuperate that heat that you're going to need. All about cooking things at different stages. Vegetables cook at a different time than proteins.
But all that education, which is the key to these videos and the recipes, takes preparation. You've got to have at least in your mind, if not a script, of where am I going with this? What am I trying to accomplish, don't you?
We're more shoot from the hip. Let's see what
really?
happens. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's several videos out there where I've tried recipes. I'm like, yeah, this isn't it. Like, I'm way off. Like, either somebody likes this and that's their prerogative, or I've really messed this up. And we don't take those videos away. I'll take the criticism all day long or stuff like that. But we just did like a hot dog video, and it was a New York onion sauce. And I broke apart different recipes that I found online and tried to create my own. And ultimately, it was something I did not enjoy at all. But there might be people out there that do enjoy it, and that's what cooking's all about.
There's a lot of honesty and a lot of personality that comes through, which I think is important too. And even going into some of your, I'm testing this meat or that meat, frozen versus not. You say, hey, I thought this was going to flop and this didn't, sort of thing. So again, I can see why it's really caught on. But another area that you had to learn along the way, besides editing and posting and managing and photos and sound and video, ads, how to monetize this.
Yeah, that's one special category I feel like we've really been able to capitalize on is to build a program along with being able to have it support, monetary wise. So it's taken a while to get there, but we do have 5 seasonings. We have a whole, griddle store for like burger presses. Our 5 seasoning, we have hats, we have merch, griddle temp charts. Now we have an ebook, a digital copy of recipe book online. And like anything, you have to crawl before you walk. So you slowly build it, slowly incorporate it. And that's something that you learn right away. If you're going to take it seriously, then I learned this last year, and it's probably a quote that I'll never forget, no matter if I'm in this business or any other business. You have to learn to value your content or your business more than what you already do. So what aspects of your business can you multiply? What aspects of your business are you willing to look at from a different point of view and say, we can do X, Y, Z with it? And that's something that I've never really thought of. So case in point, and specifically for a video, how can we take a video and create a recipe out of it? And once you get a recipe, how can we build that portfolio of multiple recipes? So now they have multiple recipes. Now you all of a sudden you have an e-cookbook. Now you have an e-cookbook. Now you have chapters in the e-cookbook. So it's valuing your time and effort more than what the average person sees. And how can you use that? And it doesn't matter what business it's in, because there are always different structures that each business has its own unique nuances. And I think that as we age in this social media world, we are finding ways that to value the content a little bit more. Because it takes, like you said, the lighting, the editing, the timing, all that, it takes time. So if you put all that together and you only get one item out of it, like a video, then imagine if you take that one video and break it down to a tutorial video for half the time. Then all of a sudden you take that whole recipe and break it down for your website. And then all of a sudden, there could be like maybe even a short built out of it for like a reel or something like that, because now all of a sudden you're on a different platform. Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok are completely different than YouTube. So
how many posts, if that's the right word, I'm not sure if it is, do you do a day, a week, a month? I mean, again, when I go to your website, theflattopking.com, I mean, I just see a wealth of recipes and ideas and is this a couple a day? What's it work out to?
We were on an average about 3 a week, and that's when I had a full-time job. And then we started another YouTube channel called Pellets and Pits, because we had so much of our audience that would look at it and say, hey, I love smoking, because I would smoke on my channel. I never got rid of that charcoal king mentality of the grill and stuff like that. And so we actually started another channel based on the feedback that we got from our viewers that they would like to see a different channel to separate the difference of a griddle and a smoker. And we actually just crossed over to 50,000 mark last week. But that is specifically for smoking. Well, now all of a sudden, if you're doing 3 videos a week and you have a new YouTube channel, there's only so much time in the week and the day and the month. So we broke that back down. We've cruised with pellets and pits. That's what it's called. And even more so when we talk about owning the content and owning your business, we've even backed it down even further because there's so many pieces of the puzzle that we're getting pulled that now on the Flat Top King, we're offering 1 video a week that posts on Sunday. And then on Pellets and Pits, we're offering 1 video a week that posts on Saturday. And about a month ago, I started this mini series that I post every Wednesday for the Flat Top King that is just about tips, tricks, and easy recipes. So maybe about 4 to 6 minutes, straight to the nuts and bolts of like how to do X, Y, Z. So the one was like how to season your griddle. One was how to create 4 tips for omelets in 4 minutes, how to create a better omelet on the griddle. And we got other ones that we've already recorded. So, and that's basically just to catch somebody's attention that doesn't want all the, I try not to bore people. I know it sounds crazy. So we try to get right down to it and just see where the video leads, just for the people that maybe want a refresher, maybe want to recap, maybe just doesn't have a lot of time that day. And we'll do that through Labor Day. And then after that, it's basically hell on wheels, as I say, for the 4th quarter, because everybody loves get-togethers. Everybody loves turkeys and roast and side dishes, and you just name it. Just that fall atmosphere for tailgates and stuff just changes completely.
Well, I don't think anybody would have predicted that 20-year-old Navy cook would be a influencer for cooking. But I say life's not a straight line, but you certainly can connect all the dots, and this all kind of fits together and makes a lot of sense. So this has been a great conversation with Neal Williams, a.k.a. the Flat Top King. You can go to that website, that YouTube channel. You can also now go to Pellets and Pits to find out a different way in which he's communicating how you can cook for your family. And one of the things we joked about, Neal, before we started recording, when you're doing 2 or 3 or 4 videos a week, somebody's doing a whole lot of eating, aren't they?
That's right. Yeah, I've got some very, very lucky neighbors and in-laws.
Yeah, there you go. So when you look at all these videos and say, well, who's eating all this stuff? It's not Neal. He's not chowing it down too much. Well, we really appreciate the time that you've given to Veterans Radio today to give us a glimpse into what a Navy chef goes through and how life has taken you into a direction that since COVID, none of us could have even imagined. Right. And we look forward to seeing where all the things go from here, including I think you got a steak seasoning coming out. You got a couple of seasonings maybe coming out soon.
We're hoping to. We'll see what happens.
Well,
I want to make sure it's right before we announce it. So
absolutely. Well, everybody ought to just stay tuned for that as well, because I'm sure it'll be delicious. Neal, again, I thank you for your time today on Veterans Radio.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows
by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org. We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, nvbdc.org, Legal Help for Veterans, a veterans disability law firm with a national practice before the VA, can help you on your claims and your appeals. It can be reached at legalhelpforveterans.com or 1-800-693-4800. We also want to thank our local sponsors. This would include the Charles S. Kettles chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America. That's chapter 310. VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, the American Legion Irwin Preskin Post 46 in Ann Arbor as well, the VA Ann Arbor Healthcare System, and certainly the National Vietnam Veterans of America Association. You can be a sponsor by going to veteransradio.org, clicking on the About Us and our sponsors, and help us out. Keep this program alive for the 21 and 22 years. Keep us going for another 20. Thank you.